The John Lincoln Podcast hosts interviews with interesting guests about their life story and personal experiences and the field of knowledge they specialize in. This podcast is for those with a deep and burning interest in law, history, politics, and philosophy. Catch new episodes here with videos posted on YouTube. Welcome to the first episode of the John Lincoln Podcast, which interviews interesting guests about their life story and personal experiences, and the field of knowledge they specialize in. I'm your host, John Lincoln. Today's episode is about an ambitious and trailblazing lawyer whose mission is to create the best law firm that helps attract global talent to immigrate to the United States and empowers innovative tech startups. She graduated Stanford University in 2005 with a degree in international relations and went on to get her Juris Doctor at Washington University in St. Louis School of Law in 2008. In 2015, she founded Alcorn Immigration Law and has since grown her law firm to be one of the best in California, winning the award Tech Immigration Law Firm of the Year in California, according to Global Law Experts 2024. She has also written a best-selling book called Ask Sophie and hosts her own podcast called the Sophie Alcorn Podcast. This is the story of my big sister, Sophie Alcorn, and how her personal experiences have allowed her to create the best immigration law firm in California, known for its compassion, innovation, and advocacy, which is greatly shaping the future of U.S. immigration law. Welcome, Sophie, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, John Lincoln. I'm really, really excited to be here with you. Congratulations on the podcast, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Of course, I'm glad to have you on. So what we want to do in this podcast is tell the full story of how you created Alcorn Immigration. Sounds good?
Okay, sounds great. I'm ready.
Okay, well, let's start all the way back in 2015, a long time ago, right? Was there ever a specific moment or experience that made you realize that you needed to start your own law firm?
Well, as you know, our dad was a wonderful, wonderful immigration lawyer, and I'm a lot older than you, so our life experiences were a little bit different. But when we were both little, we grew up seeing him, his compassion, his expertise. He loved the story of David versus Goliath, where he was fighting for his immigrant clients all the way back to the early 1980s in Los Angeles when he started becoming an immigration lawyer. And that always really stuck with me and resonated with me. And back in 2015, I had my kids. I was a mom. I had actually taken a break from working so that I could focus full time on raising my kids. And I had moved from Southern California to the San Francisco Bay Area. And I kept seeing signs that the immigration system is just, fundamentally broken. And I had been trying to get a break from immigration and just focus on being a mom. But wherever I turned, I saw, people in need and people who I could be helping. And so I was thinking about going back to work and wondering what I would do. And one of the things I had thought about at one point was starting my own immigration law firm, but I had really talked myself out of it. But it was something that our dad had also chatted with me about when he would drive me to college at Stanford, and we would drive down University Avenue in Palo Alto and look at the buildings. That was around the dot-com boom of 2001 or the dot-com era. And he would look at the buildings and say, hey, so if maybe one day we could have an office here and you could run this office and then I could come here sometimes. So amazingly, now after 10 years of having the business, I moved and I have an office right on University Avenue. And I'm so proud of that because I know that he would be so proud of us. And for that, especially that I achieved that. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And after our dad passed away, which was unexpected for all of us, it really made me question everything about my life. And when I, to my chagrin, realized that it wouldn't be possible for me to return to his practice in Southern California, to carry on his legacy there, for which I had this newfound sense of inner strength and motivation to carry on his legacy, I decided that it was time for me to start my own law firm in Silicon Valley that would help the world's most brilliant people come to the United States and follow their passions and create technologies that would help change the world and make it a better place for people. And I really wanted to have my own technology tech stack be a huge part of my law firm and how I was going to be able to do things differently, to move beyond the slow, opaque, traditional models to something that could be available to help people more quickly. Because the way our system had been going, the urgency for that became more and more apparent to me. My friends at the park who were stay-at-home moms, um, they couldn't work. They were trailing their spouses who got jobs at Google and other, great tech companies. And at that time, there was no way for them to get work permission, even though they were brilliant professionals in their own right. And I never knew that immigration was cool, I guess, until that time. And I realized just how especially helpful it could be. And so through that following year, I did a lot more soul searching, came to realize that I was a founder and really wanted to be an entrepreneur, dabbled in thinking that I should go to coding school and start the next social media network, and ultimately decided that there was no way to get a business education on being a founder for startups at that time. So the best thing I could do was start my own law firm, set out to help founders and learn from them, and create an apprenticeship for myself through my clients to learn how to be an entrepreneur and founder along the way. And now we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary. September 2020 or September 2015 is when I incorporated the law firm. And so now it's 10 years since I started it in my kitchen in Mountain View, washing dishes and wondering what else life could hold for me.
Well, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
And you said you started off in your house, is that correct? While you're
At the kitchen table when my kids were 1 and 4 years old, and I just remember washing the baby food dishes and the sweet potato mush and having, just being covered in various things related to babies. And I was washing the dishes in their baby bottles and looking out the window at this tall building in Mountain View on Castro Street, where a startup accelerator, 500, now it's called 500 Global. It was 500 startups back then. They were on the top floor. Y Combinator was down the street. Now I'm a mentor at 500 Global, and I routinely speak to Y Combinator startup batches. Back then, I could only imagine those things. I just remember washing the dishes and thinking like, wow, I could basically be an immigrant here. Like Silicon Valley is theoretically so close, but it's so far away because I just live here, I shop here, I go to the park here, but I'm not participating in this amazing ecosystem. I might as well be from a foreign country. I feel like an immigrant here. I wish I knew how to get in. I wish I knew how to participate.
yeah. So, can you explain more on how you sort of got into Silicon Valley, how you began participating and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, it was really scary and unclear at first. But I just started doing one little thing at a time and testing so many things, and most of them failed routinely. I knew how to be an immigration lawyer, and so I just decided, well, I will start by being an immigration lawyer, and I will go and create a website and put myself out there, um, and I'll go to meetup groups. That was a big thing at the time. Um, and I'll just see what happens, and I'll see who needs help. And so I thought that I was choosing a narrow enough marketing niche at the beginning by doing immigration law. And there's this joke with lawyers that you're not supposed to practice door law. And you're like, well, what's door law? And it's helping anybody who walks in through the door, because, it requires so much expertise to be a lawyer and do it in a really good way that you can't dabble. You can't do like, oh yeah, I'll do your immigration, I'll do your will, I'll help you with your DUI, I'll do this, I'll do that. Like, you're going to make mistakes, and it's like an ethical violation to do that. So I'm like, well, I know immigration. I'll just do immigration. Immigration is really big. So at the beginning, I was helping everybody, hoping to help tech founder clients, but helping people with asylum cases and removal hearings, and all sorts of visa waiver issues, and uh, fiance visas. And I didn't know how to get tech clients, but I kind of did it little by little, of like, oh, well, this person's marrying somebody in the tech field, so I can do their marriage case, and I can interview the spouse that works in tech to learn about that. And oh, that client now told me they want to be a startup founder one day. Okay, I'm going to talk to them and see what they're doing and how immigration might affect their new business. And so very step by step, I did that. And then I also decided to uh, narrow my practice to certain focus areas, because it wasn't sustainable to go to wake up at 4:30 a.m. to drive to San Francisco for a 7:30 a.m. immigration court hearing, when I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old at that point. So I had to be deliberate, but that was really scary from a business owner perspective, because I was saying no to people who wanted to pay me, and I needed the money at that time, because I was going through a separation with my kid's dad, and so I had to find a lot of courage in myself and a lot of trust in some of these like business and entrepreneurship principles that I was reading about, to be able to say no to certain things to create the brand, and the firm and the practice that I wanted to.
Yeah, and saying no to people who want to pay you money can be really scary.
Especially if you're good at it and you could help them, but you know that it's not the best for both of you, right? So I had to start referring people to other really good attorneys who I met.
So then which people did you focus mostly on?
Well, over the years, I evolved the practice more and more towards helping founders. And that's not an immigration law concept. So from an immigration lawyer perspective, you might say like, oh, I only do I-129s and I-140s. And that doesn't mean anything to anybody who's not an immigration lawyer or an immigrant going through those one particular process. Other immigration lawyers say like, oh, I married somebody from this country, or I'm from that country and I speak this other language. So I'm going to do everything related to immigration law for this particular immigrant community in my geographic area. So for me, looking at it in a different way of helping founders and their startups, we have to have a lot of tools in our tool belt in the world of business and a little bit of family immigration to be able to have the skill sets to help them, because my goal isn't to, I mean, of course, at the practice level, my goal is to provide excellent legal services every single time for each of our clients. But holistically, from a business owner perspective, my goal is to pave the way for startup founders and the world's most brilliant people to innovate in the US and create amazing companies and technologies that have the potential to change the world and create health and abundance for all people. And so we got to be able to use a lot of different immigration law tools based on what those people need to solve their problem when they need it. So that's how I evolved my thinking about it, which is kind of different from, I think, the way a lot of immigration law firms historically have operated.
Yeah. Can you explain a little on how you're saying most historical law firms, immigration law firms operated, and how that compares
Well,
to yours?
yeah, I mean, we can just take the story of our dad and how he started his immigration law firm in the 1980s. So he had been a military lawyer in the Marine Corps. They call it a JAG, a Judge Advocate General, in the Vietnam War. And after he completed his service, uh, he decided to move to a little town in far northern California in a cabin and be away from people and be like a generalist small town lawyer. And he romanticized, that he would, like, I don't know, chop wood, make fires, go canoeing, and be like Henry David Thoreau or something at Walden Pond. But then he told me that it wasn't as fun as it seemed. The small town was really annoying. He needed to be around more people and be around people with whom he could have intellectual conversations more. Um, so he moved to LA in Pasadena, and he got a job as a general counsel at a large engineering firm. And they happened to be building nuclear power plants at that time, and the firm needed really smart engineers to come in from different countries and help build the San Onofre power plant in Southern California, between Orange County and San Diego. And that's how he got the down payment to buy his first home. But he left uh, that company when they were doing layoffs, and he they were going to lay off his best friend, who was the recruiter. And my dad was so angry, our dad was so angry that he did a lot of things out of moral conviction. And so he quit. He said, if you lay off this other person, I'm going to quit in solidarity with him, because I think it's unconscionable that you're going to do that. And they're like, okay. And so they laid off the friend, and then he had to follow through and keep his word and quit. And so they decided to start their firm together, which was called International Staffing Consultants at the time. And that was to create a recruiting agency for nurses, because we still, almost 50 years later, have a nursing crisis where there aren't enough skilled nurses in the United States, and the immigration system can't get enough nurses in quickly enough. And so they decided to do like a twofold thing with recruiting and immigration. And it worked for a while, and they remained really great friends throughout Dad's whole lifetime. But eventually they decided to split off, and Dad started his own law firm. And I mean, he did the thing that I tried at first, which was whoever, put an ad in the phone book, and whoever calls, invite them to the office, do their case, and anything in immigration he would do. And so it was wonderful in the 90s being in his conference room when I was in high school, because he had like a gold medalist Olympian sitting next to like a housekeeper who had suffered domestic violence, sitting next to like a British executive, sitting next to who knows, like a teacher, like he had a heart of gold and he would help so many people. Um, and so but some of the limitations of that traditional law system, it wasn't really scalable. All the work was in physical file folders and filing cabinets. People had to physically come to the office to meet with us so that we could see their papers. We had to mail documents for signing before DocuSign, or people would, physically come into the office and sign things. When I was learning how to be a paralegal and a new lawyer, there wasn't any sort of training program. So it was literally like a, I don't know, I felt like a medieval apprentice, like going to work by to the cobblery to like learn how to make shoes side by side with like the great shoemaker. But like there wasn't an explanation. It was just like, oh, this person needs that. Go figure it out. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, well, talk to them. They did it sort of like this once, and they did it for somebody else once. Find those files and figure it out. So it was wonderful because I was forced to learn how to swim by jumping into the deep end, and fortunately it worked. But I would like to, for my practice now, solve immigration on a much larger scale, and for that it has to be more systematic. And so I've been going about it in a different way, learning from all the wonderful lessons that I got to experience from that environment, but figuring out what we need now in this century for how to get us to 2050.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about scaling your business to be as big as possible. And of course, that comes with hiring a bunch of new people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how was it when you hired new people? Did the culture of the company change too much, or what happened?
That's a wonderful question. I've had the privilege of, being able to work with some really wonderful, amazing immigration practitioners over the years in my firm. And the team we have today is fully committed, clear and aligned on the vision, the growth trajectory. But one of the challenges as a business owner that I faced was um, in those early years when I was struggling to just like pay the bills and be a single mom and make payroll every couple cycles consistently because I didn't have the tech tools to be able to work efficiently. It was really hard, and I was afraid to admit to myself about the full scope of my vision and my desires to build a successful and large, sophisticated operation that could help people very consistently at scale with compassion and individualized legal services to have as big of an impact as possible, really to help liberate human potential. But I wasn't clear with myself about that when I was like in the kitchen. I was like, oh, it'd be nice to make some money and buy a house one day. Yeah, that would be cool. So I think one of the major lessons I've learned is that as scary as it can be to admit the extent of one's own desires, the more clear you can be with yourself about what it is you're actually doing. Um, maybe it's going to repel some of the people you're currently relying on, but at the end of the day, it's much better to have clarity because then the people who are in line with the vision can be attracted to work with you and want to be able to stay. But I went through so many growth stages where I was evolving rapidly, the firm was evolving rapidly, and the place that some of my original team members had come to work for had changed very quickly, and they weren't necessarily prepared for that. And so that was one of the reasons why staffing changes have happened, but it's probably a normal part of growth of any company. But not knowing about how that works and then just having to figure it out was a very challenging experience.
Yeah, that does seem very challenging. I'm sure that you probably read a lot of biographies about other founders, and did reading those biographies help you manage like making big decisions about your own company?
Yeah, they've helped a lot. I really liked the Malcolm Gladwell Start With Why book. I really like reading about Jeff Bezos and his shareholder letters. I'm reading Steve Jobs' biography with my son right now. There's so many wonderful business books out there, and I didn't know at first that that was even what I needed. Like, I didn't know that there were tools for this, that my ambitions could be served by looking for those types of resources. I started off by doing a lot of informational interviews with people and who are very generous with their time and willing to have lunch with me, when I offered to take them out to lunch or coffee, and that was really beneficial. And they started steering me towards books like that, like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, this concept of having a mastermind of strategic advisors who are wise and have seen lots of things and who can help you. Um, so that's been really beneficial. Um, and I continue to do that, like think about my heroes and inspiration, people who, but also, a lot of the people I look up to aren't necessarily business leaders. They might be some other type of leader, right? Like Abraham Lincoln or Harriet Tubman. And so um, when I think about what those people would do, it's potentially very different from what a business person would do, right? Because I'm looking to also create a societal change through my firm and experiences with helping people, one person at a time. Um, and so sometimes I have to take a deep breath and a step back and think about, like, okay, well, maybe Steve Jobs would say this, but Abraham Lincoln would do this. And so what do I want to do? And then, of course, it always comes back to what's in your heart and doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, that's that's amazing. But when scaling a company, you can't manage everything like how you did in a very small company, of course. So how did you make sure that your clients maintained the same quality of service that they did as when it was just a small law firm and you could control more of it?
Yeah. Uh, it's ongoing. I'm still more involved than I would like to be, but it's because I'm obsessed with having a standard of excellence for our clients and continuously improving and finding ways to, well, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people when I was able to personally help them that I was an amazing immigration lawyer and they really wanted to work with me individually for everything because I had creative answers and I could make them feel comfortable and safe and clear with what was going on, even if there were, hiccups with the process or the government, that we could solve anything together. And, if I could help everybody that I want to individually, I would. But that's completely impossible, right? So that is one of the reasons of why I really want to be able to scale. And now I can't be the one touching every single case for every person, but I've done a lot of things to uh, realize, like, what's at the root of the experience that people have had with me, and then how can I build that in so that everybody consistently has this like magical legal experience as much as possible. Like people don't usually want to be dealing with lawyers, but like how do we make it as good of a process as possible for our clients? And so 3 years ago, I hired a chief operating officer. I have a lead attorney. And so, I have a marketing strategist who helps me. So one by one, I've been trying to fire myself from different jobs in the law firm. I'm still very, very involved in meeting with potential new clients and identifying creative case strategies. So as we grow, I'm going to have to find creative ways to deliver that without me becoming the bottleneck, because that's the challenge. So my fear of losing control has definitely contributed to growing pains with scaling. But now I'm looking at, technological tools to ensure that we're able to scale our excellence and ensure that every client gets the same level of deep strategic care that I would want them to have.
Yeah. And I know you love helping tech startups, but at least according to what you've said so far, I get the idea that technology has really helped you scale your law firm in a way that maybe you couldn't do 100 years ago with the technology back then.
Oh, absolutely. And even compared to 5 years ago, we've doubled our efficiency, and with new tooling, I think we could even continue to accelerate. Um, so much is possible now. And there's certain things where like AI is amazing. And um, I believe that it's still really critical for people to have lawyers who are humans, who have an ethical duty and their license tied to helping their client achieve the best outcome. And even though technology is amazing, I see it as a tool to help us be at our best. And especially with AI, there is so much room for hallucination that it is super critical to always have a human in the loop with an expert. So as we're looking at tech tools to increase efficiency, I actually think that it can allow our clients to have a more human experience, actually, of like what dad was able to help people, feel when they would go into his office. He, at one point, his office in the late 90s, he called it the Zen room. And it wasn't a conference room. It didn't have law books. He like left all those other offices and he built a Zen room, and it had, one of those like Japanese folding screens and soft armchairs and a water fountain and dimmed lights and one of those like Zen sandbox play sets with the rocks and the little rakes so that people who were stressed could like draw with the rakes in the consultation. And it was so wonderful. And so I think in the ideal outcome, technology could help every client feel that safe and protected, right? Because we can elevate the human lawyer experience to be able to give that to anybody who needs it, right? We don't have to stop with helping tech immigrants, right? Whatever I can learn from the world of tech and helping amazing, amazing founders, like I don't want to like hoard that in the tech world. I'd love to share that with anybody who needs immigration help whenever I have it fully figured out.
Yeah. And in trying to help all those people, of course, not personally, because as you said before, you, what was the saying? Like, you can't help everyone or
You
something.
can't help everyone. You
But
can't. You can't. You got to put the
like,
oxygen mask on you first. And if you have finite energy and time, you have to figure out a way to use it.
yeah. Well, you certainly are helping a lot of people by sharing all your expertise and information
Thank you.
in your books, and your own podcast. And I know you do a lot of speeches in different places. So, would you say you are a public figure now, so to speak? And if so, what made you what made you want to become a public figure instead of just
Oh, that's
a lawyer?
interesting. Um, well, thank you. And I've always felt a deep desire to serve the world and make the world a better place. And one of the ways that I can scale myself is through communications and education. I don't want to hoard immigration secrets, for the few and the lucky. I would rather live in a world where everybody can get the help they need and the tools and the information is out there. I don't think it should be, um, you know, reserved for some elite few. And so speeches, webinars, podcasts, books, blogs, social media. Um, I kind of grew that strategy in those early years when I needed to figure out how to get clients fast because I was going through a divorce and I was the mom of two little kids and I hadn't been working for many years and I needed to find a way to continue living in one of the most expensive places on the planet. So I I tapped into those strengths of mine. It's interesting to me because it doesn't really make sense when I think about it, but I sometimes I get really nervous like at a party talking to people, but I feel very comfortable on a stage giving a speech. And so I don't know what that is about, like maybe, aspects of my personality are I'm actually introverted, but I actually have really a lot of fun with doing podcasts and exploring new ideas and sharing my discoveries through words. I love it. And so it was kind of a natural resource that I had to utilize to be able to get the good news out about immigration. Um, and it's been interesting times since I started the firm. When I first decided to start practicing, I thought that Hillary Clinton would become our president, that there would be a general amnesty law, that we would, with immigration reform. And a lot of things didn't happen that way. It's been an interesting last 10 years, to say the least. And there have been so many situations where um, things that are very frightening to immigrants have happened consistently in the news, legal things, stuff related to the pandemic, economic changes, political changes. And so I know that when I've gone through challenging times and scary situations, one of the things that helps me is having knowledge from a trusted person that, okay, at least I know what's probably going on, to be a voice of clarity in a world, full of different perspectives and fake news and all of that. And then I also just really want to share the good news of our successes. A lot of people are actually surprised right now, just given the way the media is going, to hear that we're winning most of our cases consistently without any issues. And that's like a real shock based on some of the narratives that you hear out there. So, having the TechCrunch column for 4 years was an opportunity to do that. And I loved doing that. And so I try to continue to find ways to share knowledge and education, because even if I can't help every person I want to be able to help yet, I don't want information to be a barrier to anybody who's seeking help and seeking new ways of navigating their strategies and their immigration paths forward.
Yeah. And would you say sharing all this information so publicly has changed your professional relationships with your clients? Do you think now they view you in a different way?
I think so. And it's interesting. Um, oh, oh, yeah, I'm very honored when I get speaking opportunities to do, webinars or go to conferences, or uh, when people refer clients to us. It's always an honor. I think that compared to when I was a young attorney and just starting out, clients are definitely more respectful towards me, which I appreciate. Um, and sometimes people are actually surprised because I'm still in the weeds in a lot of stuff in my law firm. They're like, wait, aren't you the founder? I'm talking to you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here to help you. And they're like, okay. So I'm like, wow, I gotta, up level and be consistent with their image of me. I gotta like speed up my training process here with my team to get myself out of some of these routine situations. But I still have so much fun doing it that kind of probably has limited my ability, because I'm like, well, I love hearing somebody's story, hearing their goals. I asked them this silly question from positive psychology. It's called the magic wand question. So it's like, if I had a magic wand and I could just magically solve your immigration instantly, where would you live? What would you do? What would your life be like? Like, I love asking people that question because I get to hear their, true hopes and dreams, not just what they think the plan should be that they constructed. Um, so it's really fun. So, I mean, that's why I keep going.
Yeah. And you were saying that a lot of people, when they meet you, they had like a very different perception of who you are. Is that amongst most clients? And which way?
Remind me, what did I tell you? What did I say people think that I am? And then how are they surprised that I'm different?
Well, you said that your clients think, oh, you're the founder, you should know this. And then when you,
True. Yes. People assume I have all the answers and that I magically know every single thing. And no, 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 no. Immigration is so complicated. Literally, the guides to immigration that is like the books written for lawyers that are like indexes for where to find immigration materials for each situation with all the laws and regulations. These are like 2 volume sets with like super thin pages where each volume is like 1,000 pages. And that's just the index to immigration is 2,000 pages. And so like nobody can know everything, and it's constantly changing and evolving. So it's right. I do often have to tell people, um, you're not hiring me because I know every single answer. You're hiring us because we have a strategy to figure it out for you. So that's definitely a misconception. Yeah. I didn't remember that's true though.
yeah. Moving ahead, I have another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've definitely built quite a large and successful law firm. Um, what is your vision for the law firm over the next 5, 10, or maybe even 50 years?
Ooh. Well, I want to solve immigration for humanity. And along the way, I want to solve law for founders. If we're going to be traipsing around to Mars and orbiting Venus and having, lunar settlements as a species, I want to ensure that we have a very clear system that exists that allows people to travel freely away from the earth and back to it. So I think, as a principle, that's what we need for our species. Um, for this, for creative people who want to make a difference in the world and change the world, um, there should just be like a global creator pass where if you're creating something of value, you should just be able to go live in whatever city and whatever country you want to be able to make that happen. And then as a country, the United States, we have a major opportunity to overhaul our immigration system and uphold the rule of law, make the system more clear, transparent, predictable, so that it can be utilized properly. All the while welcoming the world's most brilliant people who would love to create companies here, create jobs for Americans, pay more taxes, and contribute. So I see the firm as instrumental to those bigger visions for our country and our society and our planet. And in order to get there, uh, I mean, that's why I like reading about, Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and other really inspiring founders like that who build something that has a huge influence in being able to help people consistently and predictably. And so I think that the law firm in its current state is just the beginning. And ultimately, I can see it as a platform that would help power an entire ecosystem of liberating people to operate at their highest potential. So I'm looking at scaling options and technology options so that we can move beyond building a firm, but really building an engine that can power the future of immigration law.
Wow, that's really insightful for how you think law is gonna change in the near future because of course humans are gonna go to Mars, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
the thing
yeah,
about having a podcast is that it's really fun. You get to explore all your interest areas. So for a while, I was just doing space law podcasts so that I could interview space experts and learn about that. It was really
yeah.
great.
I have one more question that really goes to the fundamentals of your law. So
Mhm.
your law firm focuses mostly on founders who are creative people who want to build new things, right? These things usually improve the quality of life for people, wouldn't you agree?
Mhm.
So, what's the end goal of like immigration law? Is it just to increase overall human happiness, or what do you think it is?
Well, I think that humanity is going through a lot of changes right now. And if we could look at all the times in human history where we could have been born, probably to me, like, okay, like ancient Greece with Socrates and the other philosophers, or maybe Renaissance Florence, Italy, um, with the Medicis and Leonardo and all of that. Um, those are probably the two other most exciting times to be born in the course of human history. But even with all of the struggles that we have today and rapid changes and all the things in our society right now, I still think this is the most exciting time to be alive in the course of human history because we have the opportunity to shape the future course of human history. And we have the opportunity to help humanity live in peace and abundance on a thriving planet. Whenever there's a lot of change and disruption, there's the opportunity to choose a new direction. And so that is also part of the spiritual reasons of why I choose to do this type of work. And so when it comes to U.S. immigration, we have a broken system. So many parts of it are completely inhumane. And I want to be able to show that it can be transformed. Protest is great. Litigation is great. They all have their places. They're very important. But I think that we can also simply win through superior design. And that's one of the things that I love about reading about startups and startup founders is how they disrupt a broken, fragmented system through superior design. And so I think that if we can combine law and technology in a way that streamlines things, but also amplifies human connection and human potential, I think that would be a really big win. And that would be an ideal place from which immigration could be reimagined in the future.
Well, that's just wonderful. This has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise. Before we close, is there anything else you'd like the audience to know? Anything else you want to mention?
Well, thank you so much, John Lincoln. It was a really fun conversation. I love the questions and just thank you because normally if I get to be interviewed, it's on very specific immigration law topics. And as you can tell, this is like something I think about a lot in a deeply personal way, and it matters a ton to me. So I love the opportunity to share some of my thoughts on this more broadly. It's really exciting. And I would just say that for anybody starting out on a new path, whether it's you, congratulations on initiating this podcast. It's wonderful. Or just anybody thinking about starting a new project or a new company or a new opportunity, or deciding to chart a different course for their future than the one that they were, for whatever reason, born into or find themselves in. That is really scary. I lived that when after our dad died, when I suddenly, found myself needing to become a breadwinner for my children, as I was needing to start a business and becoming a single mom. And there wasn't a clear path, I didn't know I wanted to do things in this way. I was just trying to get through the next week or the next month. That was my time horizon at that time. And it was terrifying to listen to my heart because there wasn't a clear plan to follow it, because there wasn't a roadmap, because I'm not aware of people who are doing a similar thing to me yet. And if there are, I would love to meet you. But also our paths are also unique and different from each other. And so when you're trying something new, you have to have courage, which is following your heart, because there is no roadmap yet, because it is new and there will be failure along the way. And that is okay. What matters is you keep just putting one step forward in front of the other. And so I just want everybody to know that, I'm really proud of my success, but I'm even more proud because I had a lot of really hard times that I had to figure out how to navigate, and I didn't give up. And having that higher purpose of something that you have conviction for and that you believe in, that is what can keep you going through even the darkest of times. And so I hope that that can help anybody who needs to hear it, who's listening. And just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here on the podcast. I really enjoyed your questions, and thank you for the conversation.
Of course. And thank you so much for being on this podcast. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that about wraps it up. Thank you for watching. See ya.